Namaskar. Welcome to episode 15 of the Dharma Series. Our videos may not be visually stunning, but they are among the most deeply researched and authentic explanations of ancient Indian traditions available on YouTube. Today's topic is Śrāddha, one of the oldest and most misunderstood rituals of our civilization. In this episode, we will explore its origins, meanings, classifications, rituals, and the deeper philosophy of pitṛs, āśauca, and ancestral duty. Let's begin our study of Śrāddha. Introduction to Antyeshti, āśauca, and Śrāddha rituals. This presentation examines the complete cycle of death-related rituals in ancient India, including Antyeshti, last rites, āśauca, impurity period, and Śrāddha, ancestor rites, as described in the Vedas, Dharmasūtras, Grihasūtras, Purāṇas, Mahābhārata, Manu, and Yajnavalkya Smṛti. We study meanings of RigVedic hymns, procedures for cremation, distinctions among Ahitagni, Smarta fire holders, rituals for deaths by accident or suicide, widow rituals, Kunti Karna narrative, piṇḍa offerings, and early burial traditions. This presentation covers the duration of impurity, Varna-based distinctions, Vijnanaveshwara's interpretations, and standard practices across regions. Included are definitions from Brahma Purana, Mitakshara, conceptual basis, formation of Ativahika, Bhoga Deha, rebirth theories, Pitri, doctrines, and Usmapa explanations. Covers the early Vedic references, Kathopanishad, role of pitraha, āśauca rites, Vishnu's establishment of Śrāddha, Paka yajnas, flesh offerings, and later simplifications. Includes Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya, Parvana, Ekodishta, Nava, Nava Mishra, Purana, Sapindikarana, Vriddhi, and four that became the standard. Explores Homa, Piṇḍa rules, role of Brahmanas, Dakshina rules of invitation, inheritance laws, legitimization through Piṇḍa, and duties of heirs in monthly annual Śrāddhas. Antyeshti and early Vedic funeral rites. Antyeshti means the last rite, referring to funeral oblations, sacrifices, and rites. The Bodhayana-Gṛhya Paribhasha Sutra states that two sanskaras of every human being are like a debt, namely birth, Jatakarma, and death, Antyeshti. Manava Dharmashastra and Yajnavalkya include Antyeshti among the 16 sanskaras of a twice born. Funeral rites varied for male, female, and child, and different rites applied for those who died in a distant land by accident or by suicide. Among Grihasthas, different rites existed for Ahitagni, one who had consecrated the Śrauta fire, one who kindled only the Smṛta fire, and one who kindled neither. The Śrauta-Sūtras and Grihasūtras differed widely in ritual detail, and the procedure became elaborate and complicated. 5 hymns were recited at cremation. RigVeda 14 invokes Yama and asks the departed to unite the pitṛs with Yama and with the Ishapurta, leaving blamable acts and returning home with a bright new lustrous body. Cremation widow rituals, and purification. RigVeda 10:18.7 says, "Let those women whose husbands are worthy enter the house with ghee applied as collyrium. Let them step in tearless, without affliction, and well adorned." Medieval writers misused this verse for sati by altering Agni to Agre, though this interpretation is criticized. RigVeda 10 addresses the widow, "O wife of the dead, raise yourself. Come, you have kept true to your wifelyhood." It may imply levirate marriage, new, if the husband died sonless. Dharmasūtras give varying rules. In modern times, the āśauca Sutra is generally followed. Rules existed for carrying the body purification through water mixed with schism and offerings to the deceased. During Karna's cremation, Kunti divulged the secret of Karna's birth to the Pandavas to induce them to offer water. Yajnavalkya 3.16 states that piṇḍa, ball of rice, must be offered for 3 days, though some authorities differ. Sacred fires, burial traditions, and early evidence. Several legal texts state the sacred fire set up by a householder must accompany his body to the cremation ground. Only a married householder could set up sacred fires. Mahābhārata records Yudhishthir carrying Bhishma's sacred fires during his Nirayana, indicating Bhishma was married, as supported by Nilakantha. Burial was known in the early Vedic times. Atharvaved and Atharvaved 18 mentions burials. Later cremation became the norm, but children under 2 years were buried according to Manu. Detailed rules in the Mitakshar commentary on Yajnavalkya specify that sannyasi must be buried, as he kindled neither the Śrauta nor the Smṛta fire. A sannyasi was prohibited from cooking food and did not kindle any fire. Hence, the funeral pyre could not be prepared like a householder's. The text specifies how the funeral pyre would be kindled for an adult male who kept the sacred fires, contrasting it with non-householders. Asthi Sanchayana, immersion and afterlife beliefs. The last rite was Asthi Sanchayana, that is, collecting the charred bones of the cremated body. Bones were to be immersed preferably in the Ganges, preserving ancient sacred geographical beliefs. Mahābhārata states that a man dwells in heaven for as many thousand years as the number of bone particles immersed in the Ganges. The Mitakshar explains these details in connection with Yajnavalkya, reinforcing procedural precision for different social categories. The ritual distinctions among householders, Ahitagni, Smṛta fire users, non-fire users, children, suicides, travelers and sannyasins shaped varying funerary outcomes. Over time, the procedures became elaborate, varied and regionally distinct, with Śrauta-Sutras, Gṛhya-Sutras and Dharmasūtras prescribing detailed, sometimes conflicting methods. These rites integrated cosmology, purity laws, domestic ritualism, and afterlife beliefs, forming a complete system from Antyeshti to immersion. Āśauca and duration of impurity. Āśauca refers to the intervening days of impurity observed after death, Śrāddha is not itself a sanskar, but includes several rites, mainly the offering of piṇḍa to departed soul about 10 days after death. The period of āśauca varies by varna. For Brahmanas it is 10 days, for Kshatriyas 12 days, and for Vaishyas 15 days, and for Shudras 1 month. Vijnanaveshwara in Yajnavalkya permits good Shudras to observe 15 days only. He quotes Parasar, Satapatha, Vasishtha and Agniras but does not reconcile their differences. Vijnanaveshwara marks that usages of his time differed from earlier sages. The period of āśauca depended largely on local customs. It is customary for Brahmanas all over India to observe 10 days of āśauca on the death of a Sapinda relation. The term Śrāddha now principally refers to the piṇḍa offering, even though it originally included many rites. Definition and conceptual basis of Śrāddha. The word Śrāddha derives from Śrāddha, meaning faith. Whatever is offered with devotion is termed as Śrāddha. The Brahma Purāṇa defines Śrāddha as whatever is given with faith to the Brahmanas, intending it to benefit the pitṛs at the proper time and place, in accordance with prescribed procedure. The Mritakshara on Yajnavalkya defines Śrāddha as the abandonment of faith on an article of food or its substitute for the benefit of the departed. The act mainly consists of offering piṇḍa to the 3 deceased paternal ancestors for their gratification, according to Purāṇas and medieval digests. After death, the soul sheds 2 of the 5 elements, Prithvi and Up, water and earth, while retaining Tejas means fire, Marut, air, and Akash, space. A new body, the Ativahika, is created from these 3 elements. After cremation, a Bhoga Deha is formed, allowing the soul to enjoy the piṇḍas offered. After a year, at Sapindikarana, the soul obtains a 3rd body, reaching heaven or hell depending on its actions. Doctrine, rebirth, ancestor gratification, and scholarly views. Without proper Śrāddha, the departed soul remains a Piṣāca indefinitely, not freed from numerous later offerings. M. Kane links the transformation to RigVeda Mandala 10, noting that feeding Brahmanas at Śrāddha may have been a later idea rather than the original purpose. Kane highlights conflict between Śrāddha doctrines and karma, punarjanma and karma bhipaka, suggesting tension between feeding ancestors and reaping post-death consequences. Texts such as Yajnavalkya, Agni Purāṇa, and Matsya Purāṇa state that gratified pitṛs confer longevity, progeny, wealth, learning, and moksha to the descendants. Kane assumes rebirth is immediate. However, Shankar on Brihadharanyaka states that after death, the jiva moves from one body to another like a bird from one tree to another, or with the help of the Ativahika body. Gita says that just as a man discards own garments, the jiva discards the old body and attends a better one. Gita mentions Ushmapa, interpreted as pitṛs. Commentaries explain Usmapa as beings who enjoy hot food, aligning with ritual offerings of Śrāddha, as noted in Yajnavalkya. Antiquity of Śrāddha and early Vedic evidence. Though Śrāddha is defined in RigVeda and invoked morning, noon, and evening, M. Kane notes that the word Śrāddha itself does not occur in any undoubtedly authentic ancient Vedic passage, though rites like piṇḍa yajna performed on Amavasya by an Ahitagni and yajna performed during Chaturmasya were known. The term appears in Upanishads. Whoever proclaims this esoteric doctrine before Brahmanas or at the time of Śrāddha tends to secure immortality. Shankar explains Śrāddha as bhujandanam tat Śraddhanam, means enjoying / eating. From RigVeda, the departed soul returns to the world of the pitṛs, aided by Agni, who carries the good to heaven. The plural pitraha has two senses: early ancestors inhabiting a state separate loka, and 3 immediate deceased ancestors. Evolution till 600 BC states that Dharmasūtras describes Sars as sacrifices where gods and men lived together. Men who performed sacrifices like the gods reached Brahmanas' heaven. In Śrāddha, Brahmanas stand in for the Ahavanya fire, receiving offerings intended for the pitṛs. Manu's rite called Śrāddha aimed at salvation, which means happiness of mankind. Development of the rite, epic evidence, and early ritual forms. Mahābhārata states that the institution of Śrāddha was established by Vishnu in his boar or Varaha incarnation, and that Vishnu resides in the 3 piṇḍas offered to father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Vishnu Dharmottara notes the piṇḍa to the great-grandfather is offered to Vasudeva, to the grandfather to Shankarshana, and father to Pradyumna, and performer occupies the position of Aniruddha. The earliest Śrāddha seems to have been the āśauca, one of the 40 sanskaras, performed on the 8th day after the full moon every month. It was the first among the 7 Paka yajnas. Śrāddha describe avashyaka rites where male ancestors were invoked with flesh offerings, accompanied by collyrium and oil. Gradually, rites like the āśauca fell into oblivion, while feeding Brahmanas became central to Śrāddha. Even though meat and fish were used earlier, offerings in ordinary Śraddhas later stopped using meat entirely. These Śraddhas forms became standard and were practiced all over India, signifying pan-Indian ritual acceptance. Number and classification of Śraddhas. One major classification divides Śraddhas into Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya. Nitya Śraddhas were performed daily on fixed dates like Amavasya, āśauca, etc. Naimitya Śraddhas occurred on special occasions like marriage. Kamya Śraddha was done for fulfilling a specific desire. Another system distinguishes Ekodishtha, performed for only one deceased person, and Pravana Śraddha, where 3 paternal ancestors are invoked on Amavasya in the dark half of Bhadrapada or Sankranti. In his introduction to Yajnavalkya, Vijnanaveshwara mentions 5 classes: Ahar Aha, which is daily, Pravana, Vriddhi Ekodishta, and Sapindi Karanya. Manu describes the daily Śrāddha as offering cooked rice, barley, or water, milk, roots, fruits to Brahmanas. Vriddhi Śrāddha is Naimittika, performed on birth of a son, marriage, or auspicious events. The Mahalaya Śrāddha described in Purāṇas occur in the half of Bhadrapada, in the dark half. Some texts mention 16 Śrāddhas, while others mention many as 96. Over time, 4 became dominant: Pravana, Ekoddishta, Shapindikarana, Prati, Samastasarika. Detailed types, ritual timings, and post-death observations. Introducing Yajnavalkya, Vijnanaveshwara separates Shraddhas into Parvana or 3 generations and Ekoddishta for 1 ancestor. Yajnavalkya notes that gods are worshipped in the morning, pitṛs in the afternoon, Ekoddishta at noon, and Vriddhi in the morning. Parvana occurs on Parvan days: full moon, new moon, 14th day of each fortnight, 8th day of each fortnight, and last day of the month, as per Vishnu Purāṇa. Ekoddishta includes Nava, Nabha Mishra, and Purāṇa. Nava Shādras occur till the 10th or 11th day after death. Nabha Mishra may continue till 1 year or 6 months. The Purāṇa Śrāddha is mentioned 1 year after death. Sapindikarana, performed on the 12th day or 1 year after death. This merges the deceased into the rank of the pitṛs and can be performed even by women. Yajnavalkya states it must be done on the 11th day after death, after the 10 days of āśauca for Brahmanas. The Lekha Paddhati instructs that the heir must perform Ayurvedika Kriyas or 11th on the 11th and 12th days, then yearly, monthly, 6 monthly, and tri-fortnightly as per family custom. Ritual practices, Brahmana role, and legal inheritance significance. Gautama states Śrāddha is a sacrifice to pitṛs on Amavasya. Yajnavalkya says Vasus, Rudras, and Adityas are the deities of Śrāddha. Main rituals include home, offering of piṇḍa, and feeding Brahmanas. Yajnavalkya describes clarified butter offerings, with the performer asking Brahmanas for permission after Homa. Boiled rice mixed with sesame is offered facing south, like a Pitri Yajna. As per Manu and Yajnavalkya, piṇḍa is offered after feeding Brahmanas. Though texts differ, some Purāṇas say pitṛs enter the Brahmanas receiving offerings. Debate exists whether Brahmanas or pitṛs are true recipients. Some argue pitṛs received through Brahmanas, others that Brahmanas benefit directly. Dakshina brings inexhaustible merit. Dharmasūtras prescribe inviting men of higher moral integrity. Manu excludes 93 categories, that is, for example, squint-eyed, bald man, astrologers, men, and with black teeth. Śrāddha without dakshina is called like rain on arid ground. Epic literature records lavish gifts to Brahmanas. Śrāddha thus developed primarily for their benefit. As per Manu and Dayavāga, one who offers piṇḍa is the legitimate heir. Wealth must be divided so that half supports monthly, 6 monthly, and annual Śrāddhas. Sons have higher claim than daughters, since women could perform only Ekoddishta When two claimants perform equal piṇḍa, one offering to the nearer ancestor is preferred. Sources: the rituals discussed draw extensively on RigVeda hymns, including verses which describe cremation invocations, widow rites, and journey of the departed to the world of pitṛs. Key regulations come from Manusmriti and Yajnavalkya Smriti, which prescribe duties related to āśauca, piṇḍa, sapindikarana, and classifications on Śrāddha. The Kathopanishad provides early reference to the term Śrāddha, while Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita explain theories on rebirth and Ativahika body. The Brahma Purāṇa, Padma Purāṇa, Garuda Purāṇa, Matsya Purāṇa, Agni Purāṇa, and Vishnu Dharmottara describe Pitri worship, the role of Vishnu in Śrāddha, and theological interpretations of piṇḍa offerings. Texts such as those of Apastambha, Gautama, and the Ashvalayana-Gṛhya Sutra supply technical ritual procedures for cremation, āśauca, and Śrāddha performance. Mahābhārata provides narrative examples such as Kunti and Karna, Bhishma's sacred fires, and the doctrine of post-death merit. Commentators like Vijnanaveshwara, Mitakshara, and scholars like M. Kane analyze textual variations, ritual evolution, and contradictions within Śrāddha traditions. This brings us to the end of episode 15 of the Dharma series. If you found value in this effort and the depth of research behind it, I humbly ask for your support so that this work can continue. Your encouragement keeps this series alive and helps preserve the true understanding of Dharma. Thank you, and I will see you in next episode. Dhanyabad.